I never thought I'd be that guy who gets blindsided like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I was married to a woman named Jessica for just about a year. We met in college, fell hard, and after a whirlwind engagement, we were planning a wedding. Things looked perfect on the surface, at least from my end. Jessica was beautiful, confident, a bit bitchy at times, but I always liked that about her. She knew what she wanted, and I admired her fire. We were young, sure, but I thought we had something solid. Looking back now, maybe the signs should have been there. She was a little distant sometimes, more focused on her career than our relationship. Little things, late nights, her phone constantly in her hand, quick to dismiss my concerns when I asked if she was okay. She'd brush me off with a laugh, saying I was paranoid or that I was overthinking it. She'd lie about small stuff, where she was, who she was talking to, and I'd let it slide because I wanted to believe her. Honestly, I was blinded by love, or maybe just by the fact that I was about to marry her, and I didn't want to see the cracks forming. The wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. We had a big ceremony, friends and family all around, champagne, dancing, the whole 9 yards. But even then, there was a weird tension I couldn't quite put my finger on. Jessica was acting a little strange that day, distracted, checking her phone more than usual, and giving me these quick, sharp smiles that didn't quite reach her eyes. I remember thinking maybe she was nervous or overwhelmed. I tried to ignore it, telling myself she'd be perfect once we were married. After the wedding, things seemed to spiral even faster. She started working late more often. I'd come home expecting her to be waiting with a smile, but she'd be tired, distant, even irritated when I tried to talk to her. I gave her space, figuring maybe it was just wedding stress or work piling up. But little by little, I saw her phone become more and more a barrier. She'd hide it when I entered the room, and sometimes I'd catch her deleting messages or clearing her browser history. I didn't want to believe she was cheating. That was too cliché, too heartbreaking, but the gut feeling was there gnawing at me. Then came the night I found out for sure. I was sitting on our couch scrolling through my emails, just killing time. Jessica had gone out with some friends, or so she said. I hadn't thought much of it, but then I saw a message pop up on her phone, a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was late, around 11 p.m., and I usually wouldn't check her stuff, but something made me look. The message was flirty, a little bit suggestive, and it was from her brother's number. That's when my stomach dropped. My brother Dan had called earlier that evening, but I'd been too busy with work stuff and didn't answer. Turns out, Jessica had been texting him behind my back, and the way she was talking, it wasn't just friendly. It was more than that. I stared at that message for what felt like forever. My mind was racing. Jessica had always been the kind of girl who loved to throw around lies, make herself the victim, say she was misunderstood. But this was betrayal on a level I never saw coming. The worst part was the timing during our wedding week. While I was out with family planning our future, she was secretly sneaking around with my own brother. That's when I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep living in this fog, pretending everything was fine. I had been naive enough to trust her, but now I realized she was capable of anything. I didn't sleep that night, just sat there, staring at her messages, feeling like my world was falling apart. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding, and the weight of what I saw last night just kept pressing down on me. I knew I had to face her. I didn't want to wake her up right away. I needed a moment to breathe, to get my head straight before I confronted her. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process everything. The lies, the betrayal, the fact that my own brother had been involved in this mess. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. Jessica was an expert at lying. She was bitchy, yes, but she played the victim so well that I often doubted myself. Now looking back, every little weird thing she did made sense. The late nights, the secretive phone habits, her quick temper when I asked about her whereabouts. I remembered the time she snapped at me for asking her where she'd been. She said I was jealous, insecure, and that I didn't trust her. Funny, because now I knew I'd been right all along. She was hiding something, and it was way worse than I'd imagined. I took a deep breath and decided I had to talk to her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. I got up, went into the living room, and saw her sitting there, sipping coffee, her usual bitchy smirk on her face. She looked so casual, like nothing had happened. That made my blood boil even more. I sat down across from her and just stared. She looked at me, her eyes narrowing, and asked, "What's wrong, Mike? You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't hold back. I showed her the message. Her face shifted instantly. Her smile disappeared, replaced by a look of panic. "That's not what it looks like," she said quickly, trying to brush it off. "You're overreacting. It's just a stupid joke, or maybe someone's messing with me." I didn't buy it. I told her I knew about the texts, about the affair with Dan and her attempt to lie her way out of it. Her reaction was so fucking typical: denial, anger, then tears. She started crying, saying she didn't mean for it to happen, that she was just lonely, that I wasn't paying enough attention. She threw in some classic manipulations, claiming I was paranoid or that I'd misunderstood everything. That's when I finally saw her real face. Bitchy, selfish, and so damned good at lying that she could probably sell ice to an Eskimo. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and disgust. How could she do this to me? During our wedding week with my own brother, I kept replaying her words, her tears, her excuses, her pleas for forgiveness. But none of it mattered. It was too late for apologies. I wanted to scream, to shake her, and ask how she could be so cruel, so selfish. I kept thinking about all the plans we made, all the dreams I had of building a future with her. And now, that future was shattered. I sat there staring at her and felt something I hadn't felt before, an intense desire for revenge. Not just to hurt her, but to make her understand what it felt like to be betrayed at your core. I knew I couldn't just walk away without doing something to make her regret it. I wanted her to feel the pain, the shame, the loss. I wanted her to know that she'd crossed a line from which there was no return. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what to do next. It was obvious she expected me to forgive her or brush it under the rug, but I wasn't going to let that happen. I wanted her to see the destruction she'd caused, and I promised myself that she'd never forget what she did. After I confronted her, Jessica continued to cry and plead, but honestly, I felt numb. The anger inside me was overwhelming, but beneath it, a cold, calculating part of my brain was already planning how I was going to handle this. I couldn't just walk away and pretend everything was normal. That wasn't who I was. I needed a plan, a way to make her pay, to make her realize the damage she'd done. And honestly, I was hurt too much to just forgive her instantly. I needed some space to think. She kept saying she was sorry, that she loved me, that she didn't want to lose everything. But her words sounded hollow now. I've been lied to so many times, I didn't trust her anymore. I told her I needed some time to think, and I left the room before I did something I might regret. I could feel the rage simmering just below the surface. I knew I had to be careful. If I approached her the wrong way, I might lose control or say something I'd regret later. I spent the next few hours locked in my own head, going over everything: her lies, her cheating, her betrayal. I kept thinking about her bitchy attitude, how she always threw fits when she didn't get her way. That same attitude now felt like a mask hiding her real nature, the manipulative, selfish woman who'd cheat with her own brother just to get what she wanted. I realized I'd been blind for so long, but now the truth was staring me in the face. She wasn't the woman I thought I married. She was something else entirely. I decided I needed evidence. Not just her word, but proof that I could use if I decided to end things or even get revenge. I started digging through her phone, her emails, anything that could give me more insight. I wasn't planning to leave her just yet, at least not without knowing exactly what I was dealing with. As I searched, I found more messages, flirty texts, suggestive photos, plans to meet up somewhere private. It wasn't just Dan. She was lying about being just friends. She was actively cheating, actively lying, and actively hurting me. That's when my plan started forming. I decided I'd gather all the evidence I needed to make her regret everything. I knew her bitchy, manipulative side, and I knew she'd try to spin her way out of this mess if I confronted her again. So, I laid out a plan to expose her in front of everyone, her friends, her family. I wanted her to see what she'd lost, to feel the shame of her actions. I also knew I had to be careful. If she caught wind of what I was doing, she'd probably destroy everything. Lie her way out and make me look like the crazy one, but I was done trusting her. I was going to make her pay one way or another. My mind was racing with ideas. Maybe I'd set up a sting. Maybe I'd call her bluff and show everyone the truth. Or maybe I'd just walk away, but that wasn't enough. I needed her to understand that she'd crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. I didn't want to be some fool who got played, especially not by my own wife and brother. That pain was different, deeper than I'd ever felt before. It was betrayal on a level that would haunt me forever, and I knew, deep down, that I wouldn't forget it anytime soon. Over the next few days, I kept my head down and my plans close to the chest. I wasn't rushing. I wanted to make sure I had everything lined up perfectly before I made my move. I spent hours going through her messages, her emails, even her social media accounts. Everywhere I looked, I found more evidence, proof of her cheating, her lies, her manipulation. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that I couldn't trust her anymore. This wasn't just a fling. It was a full-blown affair with my own brother, and she'd been sneaking around behind my back for weeks, maybe longer. I knew I had to do something dramatic. I couldn't just confront her again and hope she'd change. No, I needed to hit her where it hurt, make her see the consequences of her betrayal. I decided to gather all this evidence and take it to her friends and family, expose her in front of everyone who cared about her. But I also wanted to do it in a way that would leave her with no room to lie or spin her way out. I planned to record her, maybe even catch her in a lie so I'd have undeniable proof. Meanwhile, Jessica kept up her act, playing innocent, crying, acting like she was the victim. She'd tell me she was sorry, so sorry, and that she'd do anything to fix things. But I was over the apologies. I could see through her bullshit now. That bitchy attitude, her quick temper, her lies, all of it was just her way of covering up the real problem. Her selfishness and her capacity to betray someone she claimed to love. One night I decided to confront her head-on. I told her that I knew everything about her affair with Dan, her lies, everything. At first she denied it. She threw a tantrum, calling me crazy, accusing me of invading her privacy. Then I showed her the evidence, the messages I'd saved, the photos I'd found, the call logs. Her face drained of color. She tried to manipulate me, saying she was confused, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that she was just lonely. But I wasn't buying any of that. I told her she had one last chance to come clean, to tell me the truth, or I was done. Her reaction was classic. She burst into tears, begged me for forgiveness, promised she'd change, said she loved me so much, and that this was just a mistake. She even accused me of not paying enough attention, of pushing her away. I listened to her whine, feeling a strange mixture of disgust and pity. That's when I realized that her tears were just another form of manipulation. She didn't love me. She loved herself, her deception, her ability to lie her way out of any situation. I sat there quiet, watching her break down, and in that moment I made my decision. I wasn't going to let her ruin me anymore. I was going to expose her, make her face what she'd done. I wasn't just hurt. I was angry, furious, and determined. I knew I couldn't trust her again, not after this. The only thing left was to decide how I was going to end this, how I was going to make her regret everything. But one thing was clear. She'd pushed me to the edge, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not this time. The days that followed were a blur of planning and internal battle. Every time I looked at Jessica, I saw that bitchy smirk that had become so familiar, her deflections, her lies, her manipulations. I knew I couldn't just leave her and walk away. She'd spin everything, deny everything, and come out clean in the end. That wasn't going to happen. I needed to make her realize that her actions had consequences, deep, irreversible consequences. I started organizing everything I had collected. I went through her phone, her emails, her social media, printing out the most damning messages. I even set up hidden recordings, just enough to catch her in a lie if she tried to deny the affair again. My goal was simple. I wanted her to feel the full weight of what she'd done. I wanted her to understand that betrayal like this doesn't just hurt for a moment. It leaves scars that never fully heal. One evening, I called her into the living room, telling her I needed to talk. She looked nervous, maybe even a little scared, which I took as a good sign. I played her the recordings, her voice, her lies, her dismissive tone when I asked questions. Her face twisted in disbelief, then anger, then outright panic. She started yelling, denying everything again, trying to turn the tables and blame me for being paranoid. But I cut her off. I told her I'd had enough. I said I knew about the affair with Dan, about her lies, her manipulations. I told her that I had evidence that would ruin her if I decided to go public. Her bitchy attitude shifted into full-blown rage. She started calling me a fool, a jealous idiot, a psycho. She threw her usual tantrums, insisting she loved me and that I was blowing everything out of proportion. But I wasn't listening anymore. I'd made up my mind. I told her there was no way back for us, that her lies and betrayal had burned that bridge. I told her I was done playing her game, that I was going to destroy her carefully constructed facade. That night, I posted everything online, screenshots, recordings, proofs. I wanted everyone, her friends, her family, her coworkers, to see what kind of person she really was. I knew her reputation would take a hit, and honestly, I didn't care. She had pushed me to the edge, and I was finally ready to push back. I wanted her to feel the shame, the anger, the loss she'd inflicted on me. And I wanted her to know that she'd lost me, not just as a husband, but as a person she could manipulate and deceive. The fallout was immediate. Her friends distanced themselves. Her family was furious, especially her mother, who couldn't believe she'd lie so blatantly and cheat so blatantly. Jessica tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, a mistake, but no one bought her bullshit anymore. She was exposed, humiliated, and her carefully maintained image crumbled in just a few hours. I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I had taken back control, but at what cost? I'd lost the woman I thought I knew, and she'd lost her reputation, her marriage, maybe even her respect for herself. As for me, I finally felt free, free from the betrayal, from the lies, from that bitchy attitude that had covered so much darkness. I knew I'd never forget, but I also knew I'd survive this. I had to. The days after I made everything public felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Jessica was out of my life, officially and completely, and honestly, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with deep sadness. I never expected to feel this way, like I was finally free, but also hollowed out inside. Seeing her fall apart, her lies exposed, her reputation destroyed, it was what I wanted, but it also hurt more than I thought it would. I kept replaying all the moments I thought I knew her, all the trust I had blindly given her, and realized how much of it was just an illusion. I won't say it was easy. It's been months now, and I still think about her sometimes. The betrayal was so deep it left scars I don't think will ever fully heal. But I also learned something crucial. Trust is fragile, and betrayal cuts so deep it can change you forever. I learned to be more cautious, to pay attention to the subtle signs I once dismissed. Most importantly, I learned that some people are just capable of lies and deception on a level that's almost impossible to comprehend until it's staring right at you. Looking back, I see how her bitchy attitude and manipulative ways masked what was really underneath: selfishness, greed, and a complete lack of respect for anyone but herself. Her lies weren't just about hiding an affair. They were about controlling the narrative, keeping her options open, and avoiding accountability. She thought she could get away with it, just like she always did. But I refused to be her pawn anymore. I refused to let her betrayal define me, even if it changed everything. Now I'm rebuilding my life. It's not easy, and I still get angry sometimes. But I also realize that I deserve better, someone who respects me, who values honesty, and who doesn't hide behind a bitchy attitude or a lie. I've learned that revenge isn't about hurting her anymore. It's about taking control of my own story and making sure I never get blindsided like this again. I hope anyone reading this who's going through something similar learns from my pain. Trust your instincts, pay attention to the signs, and never let anyone betray you without consequences. In the end, I've come out stronger. Not because I wanted this to happen, but because I refused to let her ruin me. That betrayal cut deep, but it also taught me a hard truth. Sometimes, the only way to heal is to face the pain head-on and come out the other side with your dignity intact. And that's exactly what I plan to do.